Sarah stood outside her house. Rain pouring down on her like the sky itself had turned against her. The cold water ran down her face, mixing with the tears she could no longer control. Her thin sweater clung to her body, offering no warmth against the biting wind. Her arms were bruised from where Marcus had shoved her, his last words still ringing in her ears. "Stay out there. Maybe the rain will teach you some respect." He had slammed the door in her face, locking it with a sharp click that echoed louder than the thunder rolling above. Sarah pounded on the door with trembling hands. "Please, Marcus, I'm sorry. Just let me in." Her voice cracked, desperate and small. From the other side, his reply came with cruel amusement. "This is your lesson, Sarah. A lesson in obedience. Maybe next time you'll think twice before talking back to me." Her heart sank as his footsteps faded away. The warmth of the house, the safety of even a single dry corner, was cut off from her. She pressed her forehead against the wooden door, her body shaking, not just from the cold, but from the crushing weight of fear and humiliation. Sarah staggered back onto the porch, her bare feet slipping on the wet concrete. She hugged herself, trying to stop her teeth from chattering, but it was useless. The storm raged and she was its prisoner. The neighborhood was quiet, every window dark, every curtain drawn. No one saw her, no one heard her cries, and Marcus liked it that way. She sank to her knees, the rain soaking through her clothes until she felt as though she were drowning. The shame was worse than the cold. How had her life come to this? Once she had dreamed of so much more: love, happiness, freedom. Now she was just a shadow of herself, begging at the door of a man who claimed to love her. Her sobs grew weaker as exhaustion took over. The rain blurred everything around her, and for a moment she wished it could wash her away completely. She wanted to vanish, to be free from the endless cycle of pain and apologies. Her body slumped forward, and she pressed her hands against the wet ground. Then, through the roar of the storm, a new sound cut across the night: the crunch of tires on gravel. Headlights swept across the driveway, blinding her for an instant. She blinked against the brightness, her heart racing. Someone was here. Someone had seen her. Her breath caught in her throat. For a second, fear gripped her. What if it was Marcus coming back to drag her inside only to punish her further? But no, Marcus's car was already in the garage. These lights belonged to someone else. She pushed herself up slowly, squinting through the rain. A car rolled to a stop at the edge of the driveway. The engine cut off, leaving only the storm's heavy silence. Sarah's heart pounded as the driver's door opened. A tall figure stepped out, moving quickly toward her. She felt her chest tighten, torn between hope and dread. Whoever it was, they had just stepped into the middle of her nightmare. And in that moment, Sarah realized her life was about to change forever. A once bright woman who abandoned her career dreams after marrying Marcus, Sarah often thought back to the life she might have had. In her early 20s, she was full of energy and hope. She had studied graphic design and dreamed of working in a big company, maybe even opening her own studio one day. Friends used to call her the creative one, the one who could turn anything into art. But all of that changed when Marcus came into her life. At first, he was charming, the kind of man who could light up a room with his smile. He made Sarah feel special, like she was the only woman in the world who mattered. He encouraged her to quit her demanding job and focus on being taken care of. He said she didn't need to work when he was capable of providing everything. At the time, Sarah thought it sounded like love. Slowly, without even noticing, she let her dreams slip away. It wasn't long before Marcus's charm turned into control. He began choosing her clothes, her friends, even what she was allowed to say in public. When she wanted to visit her family, he always had an excuse. "They don't respect me," he would say. Or, "Why waste time with people who don't want the best for us?" At first, Sarah believed him. Then she realized that little by little, he was cutting her off from everyone who cared about her. Sarah's once lively phone hardly rang anymore. Friends stopped calling after too many declined invitations. Her younger brother, Daniel, who used to be her closest confidant, drifted away too. Marcus often spoke badly of him, calling him irresponsible and saying he was a bad influence. Sarah, worn down and eager to avoid fights, allowed the distance to grow. Her mother, Ruth, was another story. Ruth had always been sharp-eyed and suspicious of Marcus. She noticed his fake charm whenever he visited. She saw the way Sarah's smile never reached her eyes anymore. Ruth tried to talk to her daughter, to warn her, but Sarah pushed her away, afraid of what Marcus would do if he thought Ruth was interfering. In public, Marcus played the role of the perfect husband. He opened doors, cracked jokes, and held Sarah's hand tightly, as if to show the world how devoted he was. People admired him, neighbors, coworkers, even strangers at the grocery store. But behind closed doors, his hands were heavy, his words sharp, and his anger quick. He had a way of twisting reality, until Sarah doubted her own memory. If she confronted him about his cruelty, he would laugh and tell her she was too sensitive. If she cried, he would accuse her of trying to manipulate him. Sarah's life became a quiet prison. She had no money of her own. Marcus controlled the bank accounts, the bills, everything. If she wanted to buy something, even something small, she had to ask. Her voice, once strong and confident, grew softer until it was barely more than a whisper. Still deep inside, a small part of her longed for freedom. Sometimes she would imagine packing a bag and running away, but fear always stopped her. Where would she go with no money, no friends left, and a family she had pushed away? She told herself it was easier to endure, to stay silent, than to risk making things worse. Daniel, though distant, never truly gave up on his sister. From time to time, he would send her short messages, checking in, but Sarah rarely replied. Marcus always found a way to monitor her phone, and she couldn't risk him accusing her of plotting behind his back. Still, Daniel's messages gave her a flicker of hope, proof that someone out there still cared. Ruth, too, prayed for her daughter every night. She had a mother's intuition that Sarah was living through hell, even if she couldn't see it up close. She often wished she had been braver, that she had pushed harder to protect Sarah. But Marcus's mask was strong, and Sarah's silence stronger. By the time Sarah turned 32, her days blurred into a cycle of fear and quiet pain. She woke up every morning knowing exactly what role she had to play. The obedient wife. Every word, every step, every glance was measured, careful, designed to keep Marcus calm. But no matter how careful she was, it was never enough. His anger could spark over anything. A misplaced cup, a sigh too loud, or even the way she looked at him. On this stormy night, after yet another fight that turned physical, Sarah found herself shoved out into the rain. As the cold soaked her body and Marcus's mocking words echoed in her ears, she felt something inside her begin to break. It wasn't just the fear this time. It was the realization that she couldn't go on like this anymore. For years, she had hidden her suffering from the world. She had convinced herself that silence was safer. But as she knelt on the wet ground, humiliated and alone, she understood something important. This night was different. This night was the breaking point. Daniel pulls up to the house unexpectedly, his car headlights cutting through the heavy rain. He had not planned to visit that night, but something had told him to stop by. As he turned into the driveway, his eyes caught the figure of a woman kneeling on the wet ground. His heart dropped when he realized it was Sarah, his sister, soaked through, shaking and bruised. "Sarah!" he shouted, throwing his car door open. He rushed toward her, slipping on the wet concrete but quickly catching himself. He dropped to his knees beside her, his hands gripping her shoulders gently. "What happened to you? Who did this?" Sarah could barely lift her head. Shame burned in her chest. She wanted to say something, to explain, but the words caught in her throat. All she could do was shake her head as tears blended with the rain. Before Daniel could ask again, the front door swung open. Marcus stepped out, his tall frame filling the doorway. He wore a smug smile, the kind that made Daniel's blood boil. "Oh, look who's here," Marcus said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "The little brother. Always showing up where he's not wanted." Daniel rose to his feet, fists clenched at his sides. "What the hell is going on here, Marcus? Why is my sister outside in the rain like this?" Marcus chuckled, folding his arms. "Don't act like you care. You've been gone for years, Daniel. You know nothing about this household. Sarah and I had a disagreement, that's all." She needed some time to think. "And frankly, it's none of your business." Daniel's jaw tightened. He glanced at Sarah, then back at Marcus. "She's bruised, she's freezing, and you locked her out. You think that's just a disagreement? You're abusing her." Sarah flinched at the word. Marcus's eyes narrowed, but he quickly recovered his calm mask. He gave a mocking laugh. "Abuse? Don't be ridiculous. Sarah can be dramatic when she doesn't get her way. She knows how to push my buttons." Isn't that right, sweetheart? He looked down at Sarah, daring her to contradict him. Sarah kept her eyes fixed on the ground. Her lips trembled, but no sound came out. Daniel's anger grew hotter. He took a step closer to Marcus. Don't you dare try to make her the problem. I've seen enough. Sarah, get up. Go inside and pack your things. You're coming with me tonight. Marcus's smile faded. His voice dropped lower, sharp and dangerous. You don't give orders in my house. Sarah isn't going anywhere. She's my wife, and she belongs here. You're crossing a line, Daniel. Daniel didn't back down. His eyes locked on Marcus's, steady and unflinching. No. You crossed the line the moment you put your hands on her. I won't stand here and watch you destroy her any longer. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. For years, no one had ever spoken to Marcus like that in front of her. She had lived in silence, swallowing her pain, too afraid to fight back. But now, her brother stood between her and the man who had controlled her life for so long. Marcus sneered, stepping forward until he was face to face with Daniel. You think you're some kind of hero? You think you can just walk in here and take her away from me? His tone was filled with mockery, but his eyes burned with rage. Daniel didn't flinch. I don't think I know. She's my sister. And I won't leave here without her. Behind them, Sarah's heart pounded. A war raged inside her. Fear of Marcus's anger, guilt for letting things get this bad, and a sudden spark of something she hadn't felt in years, hope. Daniel's words cracked the silence she had built around herself. For the first time, she heard someone defend her openly, refusing to be silenced by Marcus's intimidation. Marcus turned back to Sarah, his voice suddenly soft, almost sweet. Sarah, tell him. Tell your brother you don't want to leave. Tell him you're happy here with me. His tone was a trap. A demand disguised as a request. Sarah's lips parted, but no words came. Her silence was louder than anything she could have said. Daniel reached out his hand toward her. You don't have to say anything right now. Just stand up, Sarah. Come with me. You don't have to live like this anymore. The storm raged on, but in that moment something shifted. Sarah, soaked and trembling, looked from her brother's outstretched hand to her husband's cold eyes. For the first time, she felt the grip of fear loosen, just a little. And though she hadn't spoken yet, the silence was beginning to break. Daniel confronts Marcus about years of abuse the moment they step back inside the house. His voice shook with anger, but his words were steady. You've been hurting her for years, Marcus. Don't even try to deny it. Look at her. Look at what you've done. Marcus leaned back against the wall, arms folded, wearing the same smug smile that had fueled Daniel's rage outside. You really have no idea, do you? Sarah has always been too emotional. She exaggerates, she cries, she makes small things into drama. You're falling for her act. Daniel's fists clenched. Her act? Are these bruises an act? Her standing outside in the rain, begging you to let her back in. Is that part of your show too? Marcus shrugged as if it were all meaningless. You're interfering in a man's household. You wouldn't understand because you don't have a wife, Daniel. A marriage has rules, discipline. Sometimes a man has to be firm so his wife doesn't lose her way. Sarah sat on the edge of the sofa, shivering in her damp clothes. Every word Marcus spoke cut into her, not because she believed him, but because she had heard these same words over and over until they had almost become truth in her mind. Stop twisting this, Daniel snapped. This isn't discipline. It's abuse. And you don't get to hide behind the word marriage to justify it. Marcus pushed off the wall and stepped closer, lowering his voice to a sharp whisper. Watch your mouth, Daniel. You don't belong here. This is my house, my wife, my rules. The room was so tense Sarah could barely breathe. Her hands trembled on her lap, torn between standing up to support her brother and shrinking back to avoid Marcus's wrath. Daniel pulled out his phone. You know what? I'm not doing this alone. I'm calling Mom. Marcus's jaw tightened. Don't you dare. But Daniel already had the phone to his ear. Minutes later, Ruth's voice promised she was on her way. When Ruth arrived, she didn't waste a second. The moment she stepped inside and saw Sarah's pale face, her wet hair clinging to her cheeks, her heart broke. Oh, my child, she whispered, rushing forward to hold her daughter. Sarah stiffened in her arms, guilt rising in her chest. She hadn't let her mother close in years. She had cut her off with excuses, always choosing Marcus's peace over her family's presence. Now, standing in her mother's embrace, All those years of distance pressed down like a heavy stone. Marcus stood tall, his voice calm but edged with steel. Ruth, you shouldn't be here. This is private. Sarah and I don't need outsiders interfering. Ruth looked up sharply, her eyes flashing. Outsiders? I am her mother. I should have been here a long time ago. I knew something was wrong, but I let her push me away. Not anymore, Marcus. Not tonight. Marcus gave a mocking laugh. Of course. The great Ruth, swooping in to save her poor daughter. Where were you all these years, HM? You let her drift away, and now you want to play the hero? Sarah's throat tightened. His words hit the very wound she carried inside, shame. She had kept her family away, had let Marcus control the distance, but deep inside, she also knew she hadn't fought hard enough to hold on to them. Daniel stepped between them. Don't you dare turn this on her or on Mom. This is about you and what you've done. Marcus's smile dropped, replaced by a cold glare. You really don't get it, do you? Families don't care about marriages. They want to tear them apart. They whisper poison in your ear until you doubt the person who actually loves you. Isn't that right, Sarah? Hasn't your mother always hated me? Didn't your brother always try to turn you against me? Sarah froze, her eyes darting between them. Marcus's words were familiar. He had whispered them to her for years, convincing her that her family didn't understand, that they wanted her to leave him, that she'd be alone without him. Those lies had built the walls around her life. Now, hearing them out loud in front of her mother and brother, they sounded different, uglier, emptier. Ruth knelt in front of Sarah, taking her hands. Listen to me, sweetheart. I don't want to destroy your marriage. I want to save you. I've always wanted that. I stayed back because I thought it would keep you safe, but I was wrong. I should have fought harder for you. Sarah's lips trembled. Mom. Her voice was barely more than a whisper. Daniel leaned closer. Sarah, you don't owe him your silence anymore. He's lied to you for years. You know it. Deep down, you've always known it. Marcus's face twisted with anger. He slammed his hand against the wall, making Sarah jump. Don't listen to them. They want to break us apart. They're jealous of what we have. They'll never understand you the way I do. Sarah's heart pounded. The voices pulled her in two directions. Her family, offering love and safety, and Marcus, threatening, twisting, demanding loyalty. For so long she had chosen silence because silence felt safer. But now silence felt like drowning. Ruth's grip tightened on her hands. Look at me, Sarah. You are not weak. You are not trapped. You are not alone anymore. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. Marcus's shadow loomed over her, but her brother's hand was outstretched, her mother's arms steady at her side. For the first time, she saw that Marcus wasn't the only one who could claim her life. Marcus leaned down, his voice like poison. If you walk out that door with them, you'll regret it. You'll have nothing. No money, no house, no husband. You'll be nothing. But this time, Sarah heard the fear hidden beneath his words. He was losing control and he knew it. Her silence, once a cage, was beginning to crack wide open. During the confrontation, Sarah's hands shook as she clutched the edge of the sofa. The storm outside had quieted a little, but inside the house the storm was just beginning. Marcus stood in the center of the room, glaring at Daniel and Ruth as if he could burn them with his eyes. Daniel was tense, ready to fight if needed. Ruth sat close to Sarah, her hand resting protectively on her daughter's arm. Marcus growled. Enough of this nonsense. Sarah, you're going to tell them the truth. Tell them you're overreacting. That I've never done anything to hurt you. Sarah's lips trembled. For years she had stayed silent. For years, she had covered her bruises with makeup and excuses. But now, with her brother and mother beside her, the words came rushing to the surface like water breaking through a dam. No, Marcus, she said, her voice cracking but growing stronger with each word. I can't lie for you anymore. You did hurt me. Again and again. Marcus froze, his smug smile fading. Watch your mouth, he snapped. Sarah stood, her body shaking but her voice rising. You hit me. You shoved me. You called me names until I believed I was worthless. You locked me in the bathroom for hours when you thought I disobeyed you. You made me beg for food money, like I was a child. You told me no one would ever love me except you. And I believed you. I believed all of it. Her words filled the room, heavy and sharp. Ruth's eyes brimmed with tears, while Daniel's face turned red with fury. Marcus's mask shattered. His voice rose to a scream. "Shut up, Sarah." He lunged toward her, but Daniel stepped in his path. "You touch her again and I swear." Daniel started, but he didn't finish. Marcus swung his fist, striking Daniel across the jaw. Daniel stumbled back, clutching his face. Sarah gasped, her heart racing. For a moment, fear almost paralyzed her, just like it always had. But then something shifted inside her. She saw Daniel staggering, protecting her, and she knew she couldn't let Marcus win this time. "Stop!" Sarah cried, pushing herself between them before Marcus could swing again. Her small frame stood in front of Daniel's broader one, her arms spread wide. Her knees shook, but she didn't move aside. "You're not hurting him. Not anymore. You're not hurting me anymore either." Marcus's chest heaved, his face twisted with rage. "Move, Sarah, or you'll regret it." But Sarah didn't move. For the first time in her marriage, she stood her ground. She reached into her pocket, pulled out her phone with trembling hands, and dialed 3 numbers. Her thumb pressed call. The sound of the ringing line filled the room. Marcus's eyes widened. "What are you doing?" he hissed. Sarah lifted the phone to her ear, her voice shaking but steady enough to be heard. "Hello. This is Sarah Bennett. I need the police. My husband has been abusing me for years, and now he just attacked my brother. Please, send someone quickly." The words left her mouth like fire. They burned through the silence, through Marcus's control, through all the years of fear. For the first time, she wasn't hiding. She was exposing him. Marcus roared and lunged at her, but Daniel caught him, grabbing his arms from behind. "You're not touching her," Daniel shouted, straining to hold him back. Marcus thrashed and cursed, but Daniel tightened his grip, fueled by years of pent-up anger. Sarah kept her phone to her ear, giving the address through shaky breaths. "Yes, he's violent. Yes, I'm safe right now. My brother is holding him back." Her voice cracked, but she forced herself to keep talking. Every word was a victory. Marcus struggled harder, his face red with fury. "You think they'll believe you," he spat. "You think anyone will listen to your lies? I've built a life here. Everyone knows me as a good man. You'll ruin yourself before you ruin me." But Sarah's tears weren't of fear anymore. They were tears of release. She looked him straight in the eyes. "I don't care who believes me. I believe me. And that's enough." The sound of sirens began to echo faintly in the distance. Ruth wrapped her arms around Sarah, whispering, "You're so brave, my child. So brave." Marcus's voice grew desperate. "Sarah, don't do this. Think about what you're throwing away. Everything we built, the house, the life, gone. You'll have nothing without me." Sarah shook her head, her voice breaking but firm. "I'd rather have nothing than live one more day with you." The flashing red and blue lights spilled into the windows as police cars pulled into the driveway. Moments later, officers rushed through the door. Daniel shoved Marcus forward, finally letting go as 2 officers restrained him. He shouted and cursed, but his struggles only made the scene clearer. Sarah stood trembling, her mother holding one hand, her brother steadying her with the other. As Marcus was dragged out in handcuffs, his once powerful presence looked small, pitiful, and broken. For the first time in years, Sarah felt air fill her lungs without weight. Marcus's control was crumbling, piece by piece, and she had been the one to strike the final blow. She had called the police. She had spoken the truth. She had chosen herself, and nothing would ever be the same again. Marcus is arrested. The image of his perfect life shatters. Neighbors who once admired him stood by their windows that night, whispering in shock as the police car pulled away. The man they thought was charming, successful, and kind was now in handcuffs, shouting and struggling like a desperate child. His mask had finally broken, and nothing could hide the truth anymore. Inside the house, Sarah sat on the couch, wrapped in a blanket Ruth had brought from her car. Her whole body was trembling, but it wasn't just from the cold. Years of fear and silence were finally spilling out, leaving her both exhausted and strangely light, as if a heavy chain had been cut from her. Daniel sat across from her, a pack of ice pressed against his jaw where Marcus had punched him. He gave her a tired but reassuring smile. "He's gone now, Sarah. He can't hurt you anymore." Sarah's eyes filled with tears. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'm sorry I pushed you away. I'm sorry I let him." Her voice broke. Daniel leaned forward, shaking his head. "Don't apologize. None of this is your fault. He wanted you to feel guilty. so you'd stay silent. But you're not alone anymore. You never were. Ruth tightened her grip on Sarah's hand. Your brother's right. He kept you isolated because he knew if you had us, you'd find your strength. He wanted to keep you weak, but he failed. You found your voice tonight, and that voice saved you. For the first time in years, Sarah felt the warmth of her family surrounding her. She realized how much Marcus had stolen from her. Not just her dreams, but her connections, her confidence, and her sense of belonging. But now, piece by piece, she was taking it all back. The days that followed were hard. Sarah had to give statements to the police, relive painful memories, and face questions that made her heart ache. But each time she spoke, it became a little easier. Each time she told the truth, she felt stronger. Daniel helped her gather her belongings from the house. Ruth stayed by her side making meals, holding her when nightmares woke her in the middle of the night. For the first time, Sarah didn't feel completely alone. One morning, as sunlight streamed through the window of her mother's kitchen, Sarah sat with a notebook open in front of her. She wrote down the things she wanted to do. The small steps that could rebuild her life. Find work, she wrote first. Go to therapy, came next. Then, talk to a lawyer about divorce. Each word felt like a promise to herself, a path leading out of the shadows Marcus had trapped her in. She looked up and smiled faintly at Daniel, who was drinking coffee across the table. Do you think I can really do this? She asked softly. Daniel smiled back. I don't just think so, Sarah. I know so. You're stronger than you realize. You proved that the night you picked up the phone and called the police. That took courage. Sarah nodded, her heart warming with something she hadn't felt in years, hope. She began to attend counseling sessions, where she learned to understand the years of manipulation and fear she had endured. It was painful to face, but it also gave her freedom. She realized she had been more than a victim. She had been a survivor all along. As the weeks went by, Sarah's steps grew firmer. She no longer walked with her head down. She began to look people in the eye again. She started applying for small jobs, not caring where she had to start, only that she was moving forward. Marcus's voice still echoed in her mind sometimes, warning her she'd be nothing without him. But each day she proved him wrong. She was rebuilding, piece by piece. And with every step, she promised herself she would never let silence chain her again. She sat with Ruth and Daniel one evening, watching the sun set outside. The sky was clear, painted with soft colors, nothing like the stormy night that had almost broken her. Sarah took a deep breath and said the words out loud. I won't go back. Not ever. Ruth's eyes shone with pride, and Daniel reached over to squeeze her hand. Sarah smiled, feeling a quiet strength inside her. She had been bruised, broken, and silenced. But now she was healing. And she was determined to live a life where her voice would never be taken from her again. Weeks later, Sarah stood once again in the same driveway where she had once fallen to her knees in the rain, bruised and broken. But this time was different. The sky above her was bright, the sun warm on her skin. There was no storm, no fear pressing down on her chest. Boxes were packed neatly in Daniel's car. She had signed the papers, gathered her things, and closed the door to the house that had once been her prison. As she looked at it one last time, she felt no love, no longing, only relief. Her fingers brushed the side of the car as if grounding herself. She whispered softly, but with steady strength, never again. The words were more than a promise. They were a declaration. She would never again let anyone silence her, control her, or make her believe she was small. Daniel stepped beside her. Ready? He asked gently. Sarah smiled faintly, lifting her chin. Yes. More than ever. She slid into the passenger seat, and as the car rolled down the street, she felt the weight of the past sliding off her shoulders. In the rearview mirror, the house grew smaller and smaller until it disappeared. She didn't look back. The road ahead stretched wide, bathed in golden sunlight. It felt like freedom, like a new beginning. For the first time in years, Sarah could breathe deeply without fear. Daniel reached over and squeezed her hand. This is the start of something better, he said. Sarah nodded, her heart lighter than it had been in a long time. She believed him. As they drove on, the storm that had once swallowed her life was gone, replaced by light. Sarah closed her eyes for a moment, whispering again to herself, never again. This time, she knew the promise would hold. Hey loves, thanks so much for staying till the end. Two hearts. Don't forget to like, drop a comment, and hit that subscribe button for more. See you next time. Sparkles.